They called it Moro's cabin, a weathered structure hidden deep in the Appalachian woods, where the scent of pine and rain hung thick. Travelers avoided it, muttering that the cabin did things, a shift after sunset, sounds that didn't belong. To Emma and Luke, it was the perfect weekend escape. They hadn't heard the whispers that no one returned unchanged. The road twisted endlessly, gravel crunching beneath worn tires as dusk bled across the sky. The headlights caught patches of mist curling among skeletal trees. The GPS lost signal miles ago, and yet something urged Luke forward, as if invisible hands guided him. A low hum filled the air, almost like static under the surface of silence. When the cabin emerged, it looked ordinary, unremarkable, even quaint. The porch sagged, the wood gray with age, yet its presence felt oddly expectant, like it had been waiting. Emma pointed out a window light flicker, though they swore no power lines reached this far. Luke dismissed it as a trick of the dying light. Inside, the air was colder, unnaturally so. Dust drifted on faint beams from their flashlights, revealing furniture far too pristine for a place supposedly forgotten. The walls seemed to hum, absorbing their voices. Each step produced echoes that did not match the rhythm of their movement. Luke ran his fingers along the oak table, smooth as new varnish, while Emma noticed the faint scent of lilacs. She half smiled, muttering how strange it smelled clean when it should stink of rot. Then she turned and froze. The doorway behind them was gone, replaced by an unbroken wall of timber. Panic edged into her voice as she pressed her hands against the wood. It was solid, but pulsed slightly under her touch like something breathing within. Luke laughed nervously, suggesting they must have turned around somehow. But when he checked the other side, the windows had changed shape, round, like portholes on a ship. Through those round windows, the forest stared back differently. The trees outside bent inward, their limbs twisted, almost skeletal, nodding to a rhythm only they could hear. There were no stars now, only a blank gray haze pressing against the glass. Emma whispered that the forest was gone. They tried their phones, both screens flickered with unfamiliar icons, as if coded in a language not meant for humans. The time read 00:00. As Luke muttered about electromagnetic interference, a low crack echoed from somewhere beneath the floorboards. Something down there was moving. The trapdoor creaked open on its own, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. Cold air billowed up, carrying faint knocking sounds like someone tapping a Morse code. Against every sane impulse, Luke began to climb down, flashlight trembling in his hand. Emma followed, her voice shrinking to a whisper. Basement looked wrong. Instead of concrete, the floor was glassy black, reflecting their faces, though distorted, older, angrier. As Luke's light swept across shelves lined with mason jars, each jar revealed a floating shape, fingers, eyes, small bones. Emma's scream died halfway when her own reflection opened its mouth and mouthed the word, "Stay." A noise like grinding metal roared through the walls. The reflection world shimmered and shifted, showing the cabin from another angle, as if there was a second one beneath this one, identical and inverted. Emma stumbled backward, bumping into Luke, who stared into his mirrored self now reaching for him from the other side. A burst of panic, Emma grabbed Luke's arm and pulled him toward what looked like a hallway. But as they stepped into it, the walls rippled, turning from wood to cold, white tiles. The smell of antiseptic replaced the forest air. Somewhere, overhead, fluorescent lights hummed back to life. They stood in what appeared to be a hospital corridor, familiar yet wrong. Doors lined both sides, each with plaques bearing their names. The sound of something dragging echoed from behind, slow and deliberate. Emma's knees threatened to buckle when the first door opened by itself. Inside, the room was filled with photographs pinned to the walls, pictures of them, taken from impossible angles, sleeping, talking, staring into shadows. Each photo timestamp read dates that hadn't yet happened. Luke ripped one from the wall and swore it moved slightly in his hand, exhaling faint warmth. The dragging sound grew closer. Emma pressed her ear to the door and heard whispering, like radio static forming words, her name, repeated softly. Luke yelled that they had to move, but the hallway ahead had changed again, this time lined with mirrors reflecting infinite versions of themselves. Each reflection began to move independently, smiling, waving, some weeping silently. Then one reflection stepped out, glass cracking like ice, and tilted its head. Its voice was theirs, overlapped and distorted, whispering about loops and forgotten exits. Emma clutched Luke's hand and ran blindly forward. They burst through a doorway and found themselves back in the living room, but everything was subtly altered. The furniture pattern was reversed, the fireplace cold, ashes scattered as if from another night. Luke checked his watch. It now read 1997, the year before he was born. Emma reached for the door handle. It smoldered, glowing faintly red beneath her palm. She yelped, and when she looked again, her hand wasn't burned, it was aged, wrinkled, as though decades had passed in seconds. Luke gasped as her reflection in a nearby frame still showed her young. Outside, the storm began without warning. Sheets of rain pounded the roof, and lightning briefly illuminated figures standing among the trees, watching, expressionless. With every flash, they stepped closer. The cabin walls pulsed, furniture trembling, lights flickering to the rhythm of heartbeats. Emma screamed for Luke to look. One of the shadowed figures now stood inside, soaked and silent. Its face was his. He stepped forward, pointing accusingly, whispering that this was the wrong version of events. Then, both Luke spoke at once, overlapping realities colliding in a single breath. Something cracked through the air, bending the sound itself. The cabin dissolved into a blur of wood and static, walls folding inward. Emma felt weightless, tumbling through what looked like multiple overlapping rooms. Each one flashed scenes of them entering, looping eternally with small variations. When the noise ceased, she found herself sitting on the porch again in daylight. Birds chirped. The car still idled in the drive, Luke smiling innocently beside her as though nothing had happened. For a moment, she wondered if she had dreamed it all. But the air carried the faint hum again. She glanced back at the cabin. Its windows were square again, its paint dull with age. Yet one curtain moved, even though every window was sealed. The shadow behind the glass wasn't her reflection, it was watching, moving slightly out of sync. She whispered Luke's name, but no sound came out. When Luke turned toward her, his eyes weren't the same color anymore, green instead of brown. He blinked, confused, touching his face as if expecting to find it different. The smile he gave was polite but unfamiliar. Somewhere deep within, Emma felt a faint recognition that he wasn't really Luke. They drove away in silence, gravel crunching under tires. Trees drifted past monochrome, drained of color. Luke hummed softly, but the tune didn't exist, it reversed and distorted in real time. Emma stared at the GPS blinking coordinates that read, Luke .0. 2 miles later, the same cabin appeared again, identical, at the curve of the road. Luke laughed nervously, saying they must have turned around. But Emma's hands gripped the seat tight, she recognized the tire marks, their tire marks, in the same places as before. Time wasn't moving forward anymore. Determined, Emma jumped from the car, rain beginning to fall once again. She shouted into the woods, demanding reality to make sense. The echoes returned her words seconds late, warped and deeper, as if someone else was speaking them from behind her. She didn't dare turn around. Luke followed, pleading for her to get back in, but his voice phased, 2 tones at once, overlapping differently. Every time she blinked, there were 2 of him, slightly out of sync, fading in and out. One smiled kindly, the other looked hollow-eyed, mouth forming words without sound. The storm intensified, lightning clawing across the horizon. Emma saw flashes of multiple cabins overlapping like layers of reality, each slightly different, each version with another Emma trapped inside staring back. Their movements were delayed by fractions, ripples in time mimicking despair. A sudden warmth engulfed her hand, a familiar touch, but wrong. She looked down to see Luke's hand morphing, fingers elongating unnaturally before settling into her own shape. The sight froze her blood. Both hands identical, as if reality was trying to overwrite something unfinished. Rain subsided. Silence fell heavier than thunder ever could. Luke, or whatever stood in his place, whispered that the cabin chooses those who notice it. Reality, it said, must correct itself. Emma ran, but the world around her folded inward, trees bending like sails under unseen currents. Back at the cabin, the door opened slowly as if inviting her. Inside, it looked completely different again, this time sterile white, with hospital beds and a single window overlooking veins of shadow weaving through light. A faint beeping echoed, familiar, like a heart monitor. In the far corner sat an older woman, Emma's face wrinkled, eyes weary. She lifted a trembling hand, whispering that none of them ever left. Every choice led back here. The younger Emma screamed, reaching forward, as reality fractured like glass between them. When it finally shattered, everything went silent. The cabin, forest, storm, all gone. Somewhere in the distance, a voice asked if the recording was complete. A second voice replied that subject number 12 had looped successfully again. Then, static overtook the screen. And before the feed died entirely, one last image froze, a camera view of the cabin, perfectly still, its doors slightly ajar. Inside, shadows moved independently, waiting for the next visitor to notice. The hum returned, faint but steady, an echo of the glitch that never ends.